Well, we're finally here. Just one more day. The Friday leading into Tennessee, number 6, hosting Alabama, number 3 in the country. Sold out crowd. It's an orange out CBS telecast, 3:30 kick, ESPN College Game Day, SEC Nation. All eyes around the college football world is going to be on Knoxville, Tennessee tomorrow to see if Tennessee can knock off Alabama, to see if Tennessee can snap a 15-game losing streak to Alabama. We got your preview. We got everything you need to know right here on this Friday, Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into it, and happy College Football Friday weekend. There's a big one coming up tomorrow for Tennessee and Alabama, of course. We're going to talk about that here today. I'm your host, Eric Kane. So glad to have you guys along for the ride. Watching on YouTube, please subscribe, hit the like button, and please download and subscribe anywhere you find your podcast, completely free and on audio platforms as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Hey, today's episode, it is brought to you by Sling TV. Don't miss this week's matchup against Alabama between, again, Tennessee, the Vols against the Alabama Crimson Tide right here on Sling TV. It's you love, the picture you'll love. Try it today. Hey, before we get started, want to give a shout out. My dad's birthday is today. Mitch Kane, happy birthday. I appreciate all you do for me. You're my role model. Love you so much. Wouldn't be where I am today without you. I'll try to get down there and see you and Mom more. Busy times, but happy birthday, Dad. I love you very much. All right, now that that's out of the way, you guys are here to talk Tennessee football, talk Tennessee and Alabama. We're going to do that. I'm going to give you my preview here coming up in segment 1. In segment 2, Boogie Bentley going to stop by the show, talk to him earlier this week, going to play that recording and get his thoughts and his pick for Tennessee and Alabama. And then to conclude the show, Mick Gillispie. He's the voice of the Tennessee Smokies. He's a name and a voice you know around these parts here in East Tennessee, but also he works for BamaInsider and does their pre- and post-game show and all that type of stuff, YouTube live show and radio shows across the state of Alabama. He's going to join us to conclude this week's worth of Locked On Vols. Tennessee and Alabama. It is the 5-0 Volunteers, 2-0 in SEC play, taking on the number 3 Alabama Crimson Tide, 6-0 and 3-0 in Southeastern Conference. Biggest storylines of this matchup, of course, we know it's about injuries. A lot of eyes are going to be on pregame warmups. Okay, what is Bryce Young doing? Not only is he out there for pregame warmups, is he in helmet and shoulder pads, but will he be out there for snap number 1? Because he went out there for pregame warmups, but didn't really do much against Texas A&M. Bryce Young, the biggest storyline in this football game. What about on Tennessee's side? Of course, the availability of Cedric Tillman. I think it's been about 50-50 best all week long. We will see. I still feel like, just me personally, I still feel like you might not see him out there. And, of course, you wouldn't play next week and he'd be back for Kentucky. He's close to playing, but Josh Heupel said earlier this week that he's not going to play unless he's 100%. So here's the thing. I mean, that's it right there. If he's not playing, then it's obviously not at 100% health. So we'll see about Cedric Tillman. Very questionable for this football game. Safety Jalen McCullough. Josh Heupel was asked for another update on Thursday. He didn't really give one, said that there's a process that they're having to go through and all that. Very much questionable to see if we'll see Jalen McCullough out there starting at safety for the University of Tennessee. The two guys who have been practicing and repping and getting ready to play has been Danico Slaughter as well as Wesley Walker. Wesley Walker plays a lot of star for Tennessee, but he can slide back and play safety if needed. Danico Slaughter got a little early run against LSU. Those would be the two guys, probably Slaughter 1, Wesley Walker 2, who would step in and play for McCullough if he, of course, cannot play. And then, of course, I think Gerald Mincey is going to be able to go in this one. Josh Heupel said Monday that he anticipates him being back and ready to roll, so that is a good sign. Those are the storylines. Those are the injuries and off-the-field issues and all that we got to pay attention to. So, again, all eyes are going to be on pregame warm-ups to see who is out there and who is contributing. Alabama, Nick Saban, typical Alabama club, right? 44.3 points per game. That's third in the SEC behind Tennessee and Georgia. Total offense, 503.7 yards per game. That's got to be up there, but it's not as high as Tennessee, of course, who leads the nation in total offense per game. Plays per game, Alabama runs 67.5 plays per game. Average yards per play, 7.5. They throw for 246.5 yards per game. They run for 257 yards per game. So incredibly balanced, but also a really, really good run game. Averaging 7 yards per carry is Alabama, whether it's a running quarterback or a host of running backs. 19 passing touchdowns on the season, 13 rushing touchdowns on the season. Time of possession, 28.56 on average, 46% offensively on third downs, which is a pretty good mark. 33%, only 3 of 9 on fourth down so far this year. Turned it over 10 times, though. 5 interceptions thrown, 5 fumbles lost has Alabama been so far this season. Of course, a trio of those came from Jalen Milroe last week against A&M. They have accumulated 18 sacks defensively. They have 44 TFLs defensively. And in the red zone, back to offense, they're 21 to 28 at a 75% clip. That's touchdowns, mind you. 21 of 28 for 75% of the time. Alabama scores touchdown when they reach the red zone. Now, defensively, it is stout. It is stout. 12.5 points given up per game, 250 yards only is what they're surrendering on average per game defensively. 66.5 plays is what they're out for typically. 166 yards through the air is what Alabama surrenders. 84.5 rushing yards per game is what Alabama surrenders. That's a really, really good mark. They've surrendered 3 passing touchdowns, 4 rushing touchdowns on the season. Only 7 touchdowns is what this defense has given up on the year. 23% is what Alabama is holding opponents to on third downs, which is just mind-boggling. What a stat there. 38% on third downs. They've allowed 3 of 8 attempts against them. They have accumulated 5 takeaways. So Alabama has given away the football 10 times offensively, which is uncharacteristic like. And defensively, it's only taken the football away 5 times. 2 picks, one of those from Will Anderson Jr., and then 3 fumble recoveries. It's given up the offensive line. Let's flip back to offense. I'm sorry. This is the way I have written on my notes here. The offensive line for Alabama has surrendered 9 sacks and given up 30 plays in the backfield for TFLs. All right. So obviously Bryce Young, will he play? Won't he play? We'll see. Bryce Young, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, in 5 games this season, he's thrown for over 1,200 yards, 14 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, completing 67% of his passes. Also has 3 more rushing touchdowns. Jalen Milroe would likely get the start. He got the start against Texas A&M, but if Young can't go, it's going to be Jalen Milroe as well as Ty Simpson, in my opinion. I think it was very evident Milroe was not good in the pocket, in that start against Texas A&M. He threw an interception. I know he threw 3 touchdowns, but he also fumbled twice. I think if they need a spark and they need to do something through the air, I think you'll see Ty Simpson, the true freshman. Of course, Alabama won out over Tennessee in that one, just a couple of weeks on the job for Josh Heupel. But anyway, we'll see what happens. Bryce Young is a good player. We'll have to see what they can do if he cannot go. Jahmyr Gibbs is the biggest name on the offense, especially if Young's not out there, of course. But he's number 2 if Young is out there. The leading receiver and the leading rusher for Alabama, Jahmyr Gibbs, the Georgia Tech transfer, 532 yards rushing on the season, 2 touchdowns. He's averaging 8.3 yards per carry. Really good. 22 receptions, 270 yards, and 3 touchdowns through the air. The wide receivers are not the typical wide receivers, as we may mention a couple of times this week. The leading receiver right now is obviously Jahmyr Gibbs, but you've got Roydell Williams, 140 yards and a touchdown. You've got, let's see here. Excuse me, Roydell Williams is a running back. Trayshawn Holden has 4 touchdowns on the season. You've got Jermaine Burton, formerly of Georgia, has 3 touchdowns. Ja'Cory Brooks has 3 touchdowns. So again, they're trying to figure it out at the wide receiver position, because you don't have the Devontae Smiths, you don't have the Jerry Jeudy's, you don't have the John Mechie's or the Jameson Williams here this year. So we'll see. Offensively, they're pretty solid. A little bit different, of course, if Bryce Young can't play, and Tennessee will need to take advantage of that. But of course, we won't know that until pregame warmups to see who's actually out there. Defensively, again, it all starts with Will Anderson Jr., 5 sacks, 10 TFLs, an interception, 1 block kick on the season. You got on the other side of him at the defensive end, Leo spot, outside linebacker spot. You have Dallas Turner, 20 tackles, 2 sacks, and 4.5 TFLs. And here's the thing, because of Will Anderson Jr., he has elevated the play of Dallas Turner on the other side. And so one of those guys will be getting a double teamed or be getting a 6-man protection or a chip block or whatever, but there's going to be a whole lot of one-on-one matchups. Will Anderson Jr. will see a fair share of one-on-one matchups, as will Dallas Turner. Tennessee has got to win the majority of those one-on-one matchups. They're going to go make plays. I mean, they're good football players, especially Anderson. They're going to go make plays. but you got to take advantage, or not advantage. You got to rise to the occasion of some of those one-on-one blocking opportunities for one of those guys. Up front, you got Byron Young's a really good player on the defensive line. Tim Smith's a guy that's gotten some starts. Linebacker in the middle, of course, you've got Henry To'oTo'o, former Tennessee linebacker, leads the Tide with 39 tackles. You got Jalen Moody, who's a good player. In the middle, you also have Devontae Lawson, who's in the middle as well, who plays some. Brian Branch has been one of their best impact players in the defensive backfield at the star position, the nickelback spot. No Eli Ricks. He's not a starter. He hadn't played an awful lot. The transfer that was an All-American from LSU, or the preseason All-American from LSU. At cornerback, it's Kool-Aid McKinstry, who's a really good punt and kick returner, but he's also a cornerback. And you have a freshman, Terrion Arnold, who stepped in, also has an interception on the season. And, of course, you got Jordan Battle at safety, who's been there for a long time. So the challenge, it's there. I know a lot of you guys got mad at me yesterday because I said I'm not going to be the one that picks Tennessee to win this game. I mean, I'm not backing off that. I'm not going to be the one that picks Tennessee to win this game. But, again, you know, if you listen this week, of course, and if you listen to the show yesterday, and if you're listening right now, I mean, I say, hey, you know, Tennessee can win this football game. Tennessee can absolutely win this football game. More than anything, I'm just not picking them just because I'm just not going to be that guy. I'm not going to do it. But if Tennessee wins, come at me Monday. Doors open by all means. You know, throw those internet punches at me. I'll take them, and I welcome that. Again, I welcome that. You guys are my clientele. You know, if Tennessee wins, that's good for me. Okay, I mean, let's be real here. You know, I write at VAWLS.com. When things are good, business is good. And everything is more fun when you're covering a winning football team. So this is a big time game. I mean, some are saying this is the biggest game at Neyland Stadium since 1998, I believe. Man, this is going to be a big time football game, and I think it's going to be a close football game. At the time of this recording, if you check the books, Tennessee remains as a 7-point underdog, 7-point underdog to Alabama. You check the money line. Alabama's sitting pretty sweet at the money line right now at minus 285, and the total is at 65.5. I still think that'll hit the over for that total. So it's going to be a big one. Tennessee will need to neutralize the defensive ends, Anderson Jr., Dallas Turner. Tennessee will need to utilize the first quarter to get off to hot starts and try to knock them down a little bit with that tempo right out of the gates. Defensively, Alabama's going to throw a lot of things at Hendon Hooker as it should, try to confuse him. But, you know, right now I like the edge at quarterback. Even if Bryce Young plays, he's not going to be near 100%. I like the edge at quarterback right now with Hendon Hooker. I do. I really do. And honestly, even without Cedric Tillman, if he doesn't play, the way Alabama's defensive secondaries looked here recently, I like Tennessee's wide receiver group. So you got to take advantage of that. You got to score and score and score. And I've said it all week. I'll continue to say it. You need to establish a run game with the running back, not just Hendon Hooker, but more importantly, you've got to play complementary football. You'll give up points. You will give up plays. Alabama is a good football team. Trade sixes for threes, okay? Trade touchdowns for field goals, all right? And create some turnovers. Create some more opportunities to put the football in Hendon Hooker's hand. That is how you are going to win this football game. This is going to be a big-time football game, and I can't wait. I know you can't either. This is why, as Josh Heupel said, is why you come to coach here. It's why you pick to come and play here as a player. You know, I'm lucky to cover this team right now. It is an absolute blast, and I can't wait for this football game coming up tomorrow. It is going to be an absolute blast. All right, guys. If Tennessee wins, I'll go ahead and tell you this. You know, it'll be late. It will be very late, but I promise you, I will do a post-game podcast. It'll be so late because, again, I got to cover the game. I do all my responsibilities, and I got to get home. But if Tennessee wins on Saturday night, I will do a post-game podcast. I can promise you that. But regardless, we'll be back Monday morning to recap all of what Tennessee and Alabama is. Can't wait for that. Coming up next, my chat with Boogie Bentley. In segment 3, we'll chat with Mick Gillispie, a BamaInsider, and the Tennessee Smokies. But right now, I want to tell you about Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to spice up college football season. All you need to do is you know, you go to and play plays available in over 30 states. Just pick 2 and 5 players across any team and decide if they're going to finish higher or lower of the mark set. One of the easiest fantasy to play games out there, and you can win some cold hard cash in a single game. Like right now, I'm going to take Hendon Hooker for over 3 total touchdowns. I don't know if it's on the ground, he gets 2, and through the air, he gets 2. He gets through the air, he gets 4. Big time players make big time games in big time moments, right? And so however that saying goes. I'm taking Hendon Hooker to go over the 3 touchdowns. I think he's going to get 4 total for sure. So I'm looking forward to that. Sign up with the promo code Locked On, and that's one word, Locked On, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. Deposit $100, you're going to get up to $100 for free. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com or find the Underdog Fantasy app in the App Store or Google Play Store. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Locked On, one word, Locked On. Get in on college football pick'em action today with Underdog Fantasy. All right, boys and girls, it is almost here. Just one more sleep, and then it's Tennessee, it's Alabama. We've been talking about it all week long, and here we are. And, one of my favorite guys to talk Tennessee football with, and one of your favorite guys to talk Tennessee football with, his name is Boogie Bentley of the Talkin VAWLS Network. Boogie, what's up, brother?
Man, it is almost go time. What a great week. What a great week of talking Tennessee football. Just the energy. Like going into this game, it's just game after game. It keeps getting bigger and more important, we're talking about Tennessee, Alabama in year 2 of Josh Heupel. Everything's on the line tomorrow afternoon. I can't wait, man. I cannot wait. It's go time.
I mean, it's a big one, brother. Any way you want to spin it. I mean, of course, you got undefeateds. You got teams in the top 10. You've got my stupid microphone is not one to work here. Apologies. You got 2 teams in the top 10, undefeated. First time that's happened at the same time since 1989. Last time the 2 teams met and they were both ranked inside the top 10 was in 2016. Tennessee's lost the last 15 meetings. I mean, we can go on. We have the game notes. We all know that, right? But what I want to ask you first and foremost is something I've been asked a lot this week. You got the big 3. You got Florida, Georgia, Alabama. You and I, it's been a lot of Tennessee losing throughout our lifetimes, obviously. A lot of our audience as well. But if you ask a lot of people around this rivalry, this game means so much to them. And if you ask Alabama fans, they'll say Tennessee's a bigger rival than Auburn a lot of the times. Where does Alabama, when you say Alabama, what does that mean for you, the Tennessee fan?
Like it's immediate hatred. And these some of these Alabama fans, they come onto YouTube and they're like, man, we really wish you guys were good again. It's like that is such a backhanded compliment. Like, what are you talking? No, I loved when Phil Fulmer owned Alabama, when Tennessee dominated Alabama. Let's get back to that. People talking about, the storyline this week. Is Bryce Young going to play? Is he not going to play? And yeah, we're recording this, the magic of the internet, a little before Friday, so we still don't know. I don't care. I don't care if Bryce Young plays. Somebody in the fan call-in show for us this week said, I don't care if Nick Saban's out there taking snaps. It does not matter. Go take care of business. Go beat Alabama. But when you're talking about the streak and how long Tennessee's been down in this thing, it doesn't feel like a rivalry. And we kind of joke about, the way Tennessee dominated teams like Vanderbilt and Kentucky. And then, of course, even that's not been as successful for Tennessee in recent years. But we never looked at Vanderbilt or Kentucky as a rival. When you dominate a team for that long, I don't know that Alabama does consider us a rival at this point. It's time to go out and punch them in the mouth on Saturday and let them remember what this rivalry is supposed to be. And it's sad, like you said, a lot of people in this fan base never saw success in this rivalry.
I remember going to Neyland Stadium. I'm not even sure what year it was, but it was in the 90s. I mean, I was really, really young. And I remember it was like one of the first years, I could easily go look this up, but it was like one of the first years that Alabama beat Tennessee. I think Tennessee won like 5 or 6 or 7 in a row at that point. And then Alabama won that game. And I just remember Neyland it was awful. There were fights in the stands. And I mean, it was such a horrible environment. Now I remember that moment and I'm like, oh, well, the Tennessee will get him next year, as a young kid. And then just thinking, where you are now, it's like, gosh, it's been 15 years, since Tennessee's won. It's truly incredible. But I've said it all week. I don't know if Tennessee will win this football game, but Tennessee can win this football game. I mean, there's a path to victory here. Even if Bryce Young's playing, because of what you have on the other side. So I'll ask you this, Boogie. What needs to happen for Tennessee to pull off this upset? And mind you, this upset, I mean, sure, it's an upset, but it's only 7.5 right now.
That was the biggest thing to me is I was kind of surprised. I thought maybe 2 touchdowns, 2 scores at least. That tells you that Vegas truly believes that Tennessee can go and compete on Saturday. To get it done, you have to play clean football. Alabama's shown. They showed it against Texas. They showed it against Texas A&M. They are beatable, even like you said, even if Bryce Young plays. And if he does, There's no way that kid's 100%.
Yeah.
Regardless, no matter if everybody on both teams are healthy, Tennessee can go out and win on Saturday, but they have to play clean football. You can't turn the ball over. History tells us that Hendon Hooker is going to protect the football, but the fumbles, Hooker had a couple last week. He got lucky on them. Jalen Wright continues to struggle with ball security. We've gotten lucky. Tennessee cannot afford to turn the football over. And on the flip side of that, if you force them to make a mistake, you have to capitalize on it. I think we talked about it Monday morning when you were on my show. You got to go get 6. It didn't hurt them last week against LSU. You had an opportunity to go up 14-0 out of the gate. You got the field goal. You're still up 2 scores. Didn't matter. 40-13, that's a blowout. That's domination. You can't do that against Alabama. Going out and having Chase McGrath kick 4 out of 5 field goals ain't going to beat Alabama.
No, you got to finish those drives, no doubt. And 118, 20 yards, whatever it was, and penalties. I mean, that can get you beat in a game like this. I've been saying that all week long. Having a slow process with the punt team, that can get you beat because Alabama can go get it. I mean, I sound like a coach here, but every tiny little thing that you do wrong can matter in a game like this because Alabama is Alabama. Now, take Young out of the equation, take Will Anderson Jr. out of the equation on defense. This Alabama offense, it's got Jahmyr Gibbs, who's fantastic. I mean, he's leading receiver, leading rusher. He'll line up wide. He'll line up in the backfield, whatever. He'll line up in the slot. But the other receivers for Alabama, no John Mechie, no James Williams, none of these guys, Devonta Smith. There's none of those guys here. I think they're beginning to settle down a little bit, but they're still quick and athletic, and I'm not trying to diminish it, but I think in terms of the overall first round draft talent at the wide receiver position, I'm not seeing that in this year's group right now. And I feel like Tennessee's got to take advantage of that, obviously, because they're going to be looking at Jahmyr Gibbs a whole lot more to where they'd be looking to the outside in years past.
Yeah, that's the intriguing part about this matchup is, can Tennessee stop Jahmyr Gibbs?
Yeah.
Because I think he's the best running back in the country. People can argue or disagree with me. I think he's an absolute stud. And the fact that, you talk about the wide receivers kind of not being at that level they were at one point, the fact that Jahmyr Gibbs has the most receptions for Alabama, that tells you all you need to know. And, it's going to be intriguing to watch on Saturday. Can Tennessee stop the ground game, especially if Young doesn't play? If Young doesn't play, what's that game look like? And I heard you guys talking about it on the VAWLS podcast earlier in the week. Does Nick Saban trot Ty Simpson out there? Because
I think he does.
It's becoming more realistic that happens.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that he starts. I'm not saying that he plays 30 snaps. But I don't feel like, especially say you're in a shootout of some sort, say that Tennessee's offense is humming and it's scoring and Alabama's trying to keep pace, right? I mean, that's just so weird to even say. They're gonna throw the football a little bit. I just don't know if I don't know if anybody knows if Milroe can do that consistently. I just think they'd have a better opportunity with Ty Simpson if it comes down to it. But we say all this, and Young's going to go out there and play and not miss a snap and throw for 3 touchdowns, I'm sure.
Do you think he plays? Do you really think he plays? I just don't see it.
Earlier in the week, I would have said no. Earlier in the week, I would have said no. As the week's gone on, I feel like he's going to give it a go. But as you pointed out, there's no way he's 100%. No way. It's a if you're Nick Saban, it's like, if I'm Nick Saban, I'm sitting here thinking, and again, this is a testament to Tennessee. I'm sitting here thinking, I need Bryce Young to play in this football game to win. Can Alabama win without Bryce Young? Of course it can. Of course it can. But if I'm Nick Saban, I'm saying I need Young to win this football game. It's a lot to gamble to hold him out of this football game and say you lose this game to run the table and then get on to the college football playoff. You can do it. You can certainly do it, but that's a big gamble. So as the week's gone on, I feel like there's going to be more to it that we see from him, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm not a doctor, and you had a quarterback that came out fully dressed out and stood out there for pregame warm-ups just to play the mind game, and of course didn't take a snap.
Yeah, I just don't know. And if he does play, get after him, get aggressive, bring pressure, hit him. I don't ever wish injury on anybody, but hey, that's part of football. That's part of the game. I think you talked about it, during that Pitt week. You have to give Tennessee's defense credit for knocking quarterbacks out of the game. And if Bryce Young's out there and he's beat up, what does he look like? Does he make mistakes? Is he pushing? Is he forcing? And then on the flip side, if he doesn't play, The big thing that I've kind of been talking about this week, and it's why Nick Saban does what he does. It's why Josh Heupel's not going to tell you if Cedric Tillman's playing. It's because Tennessee now has to game plan for two different quarterbacks, and not only two different quarterbacks, two drastically different quarterbacks. If Milroe plays, stay in your gap integrity is huge. Keep him bottled in, keep him in the pocket. That kid looks like an NFL running back. He does. Like, when he's out in the open, he is dynamic, he's electric, but he's not very good with his arm. Bryce Young, on the other hand, different type of game plan, man. That's a big challenge for Tim Banks and this defense heading into tomorrow's game. Huge challenge.
All right, man. You already went out and gave your score prediction early in the week on the Talkin VAWLS network. I want you to bring you on here to Locked On Talkin VAWLS. Your score prediction for Tennessee and Alabama, and just anything else about this game that you're watching for that needs to happen for Tennessee to win. Just anything else about this game before we head into what we hope is an incredible football game tomorrow.
Well, I said it. I said it after they beat LSU. I am not picking against this football team until they lose, because people, and people are, they're going undefeated, 12-0, feels like 98. And then even people saying 10-2, I'm like, there is no way this football team goes 10-2 this year. I am not doubting. Josh Heupel has this team dialed in, firing on all cylinders. They believe. When they said, let's just go to Atlanta. Yeah, why not? Yeah, let's just go to Atlanta. Let's just win every game. The big matchup still, like I said earlier, for me, can this Tennessee rushing defense, what are they, 5th in the country, I think, giving up 89 yards a game on the ground. They're elite at stopping the run. If Bryce Young doesn't play, can they stop Jahmyr Gibbs? Can they contain Jahmyr Gibbs? If it's Milroe, he's going to make plays. It is what it is. You may be able to force him into some mistakes with his arm. Does Hendon Hooker continue to not turn the football over? Can they protect the ball? There's so many questions, but the bottom line is, as we've kind of said throughout this 10-minute segment, Tennessee can and will compete with Alabama on Saturday. There's a reason the line is as low as it is. There's a reason a lot of these talking heads are picking Tennessee to win. I'm going in a shootout, man. I've said over and over, I like Tennessee in a shootout against anybody in the country. Alabama looks beatable. I think it comes down to the wire. Tennessee's going to win 38-35. The goalposts are coming down. They're going in the river, and it's time to celebrate and start skipping ahead and making Josh Heupel irate as we start looking at Georgia instead of everybody else.
All right. There you have it. The goalposts are coming down. Boogie's calling a Tennessee win over Alabama, and if that happens, the internet is going to come down because you guys are going to be live right after the game for the postgame show, right?
Complete chaos. I told them, they were laughing after the LSU win. They said, Boogie, what's going to happen if Tennessee beats Alabama? I said, we're staying live all night long. We're going to light up cigars, probably piss off everybody's wife as the smoke fills the air in all the man caves across the country. It's going to be great. It's going to be a celebration. That's the beauty of the Talkin VAWLS network on YouTube. It is truly for the fans, by the fans. It is a celebration, or we drown our sorrows together. So hopefully we're celebrating tomorrow night after the game.
Good stuff, Boogie. Appreciate it, man. Thanks so much. Enjoy watching the football game, and we'll talk again next week on your show.
Always a pleasure, man. Thanks.
Hey, my next guest here going to bring on the show is a good friend of mine. He is the play-by-play broadcaster for the Tennessee Smokies. He's a name you know. He's a voice you've heard before. And he also does a lot of work for BamaInsider, the On3 site, covering the Alabama Crimson Tide. It's my guy, Mick Gillispie. Mick, what's up, brother?
Hey, what's up, bro? Yeah, great to see you, Kaner. And these are my two teams, so let's go, man. This is exactly what I was hoping for too. Like both teams coming in head to head, undefeated. But there's a lot of stress now. This game means something finally.
I mean, it really does. I mean, it's been 15 years. It's been completely one-sided. Tennessee's been down. Alabama has been the opposite of down, to put it bluntly. I mean, Alabama's been great, right? But I do think, kind of on that note, I mean, Tennessee's an underdog. Tennessee might not win this game, but Tennessee can win this game. This is the first time you can say Tennessee actually can win this game in at least 7 years. When you have a quarterback and when you have an offense, you have a fighting chance. And Tennessee's got both and a damn good quarterback in Hendon Hooker.
Yeah, look, I've talked about this here. I mean, I think it started when Randy Boyd took over as the president, kind of made Tennessee, instead of kind of a laughing stock with some decisions, really smart. And then you go out and get Danny White, and then you get Josh Heupel, and then you get Hendon Hooker, right? How did he get away from Virginia Tech? I was at the Pitt game last year, and I'm watching all these wide open receivers, right? And then they found someone that could get them the ball. But I love it. It's a really fast offense. I think they do have a chance against Alabama because of Hooker. And I've looked at Vegas, from the beginning of the year. Tennessee hasn't been in like the Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson odds, but you get outside of them Vegas-wise, and they've been one of those teams that Vegas has had on their radar. I mean, even though their numbers are still would be phenomenal for them to win the national championship, and it's because of Hooker. I think he's right now the leader for the Heisman Trophy. He doesn't throw interceptions. He's able to hit on those deep balls. And he's so dangerous. But then when Jabari Small gets it, he's able to run the football. A lot of it has to do with the offensive line, just giving him enough time to be able to look downfield. To me, Alabama has a great defense. Go back and watch Nick Saban break down the last play of the game against Texas A&M. And you'll see, I mean, there's just so many good players on the field defensively for Alabama. But it's an offensive world now in college football. And Hendon Hooker's probably, I mean, even with, with the Heisman Trophy winner from last year out there for Alabama, he's been banged up. So I'd say Hendon Hooker's the best player on the field Saturday.
Yeah, that's some high praise because there's some great quarterback play around the country. As you pointed out, this is certainly an offensive game at this point in time, but kind of on Bryce Young. Let's go from one quarterback to the other. Got banged up against Arkansas. Milroe came in, finished that football game. Milroe got the start, beat Texas A&M. Very questionable is Bryce Young. Byron Young plays defense for Tennessee, and there's a Byron Young that plays defensive line for Alabama too.
We have a lot of Youngs.
Yeah, I know, right? But for BY, for the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, I know you don't have the answer to this, but kind of what's the talk down there this week? What's the thought? And if he can't go, what type of chances I give Tennessee against Milroe, who's a little bit more of a different quarterback, but a very good runner.
Look, I think he's going to play. I think he could have played in last game. I think they just, they were going to run the ball, and Jalen Milroe's a running quarterback. And, Bryce Young was suited up. He was asking Nick Saban to play when it got close at the end of the game. He's ready to go. I'm a body language reader. And so I think last week I knew he wasn't going to play because Nick Saban was agitated. He's, and he didn't. And then this week I see a very relaxed Nick Saban and then I listen to his comments and I'm like, okay, he's going to play. At least he's going to try, right? I do a show with Jay Barker. He was the 92 national champion on BamaInsider. We actually do a lot of shows together. And he was telling me, we're talking about it. I said, well, you AC sprain. He's like, well, I had one in both shoulders. And I said, well, how long were you out? He said, 1 week. Cortisone's a great thing. So Bryce will have been out a couple weeks. He brings a passing dimension. There's a calmness there. Alabama's going to have to score more than 24 points to win against Tennessee. And but that's not really ever been a problem for them. The Texas A&M had a really good defense, but no offense. So it's kind of the vice versa, right? Tennessee's offense is the best. And then Tennessee's defense is, people can argue, well, it's in the 80s or 90s or in the 40s. I know there's different ways of looking at it, but they're okay. And Alabama's offense is really good too. So he commands the offense. He's able to throw the ball. We don't really have like a go-to receiver this year, which is kind of odd when you talk about years and years, starting with Julio Jones and Amari Cooper and Calvin Ridley, and then the four guys that all played together. And then last year, Jamison Williams and Mechie, who are, NFL picks and now out. Ja'Cory Brooks has been pretty good at times, but there's been a lot of drops. Jermaine Burton, who came over from Georgia, makes some catches for you, but no one really stands out in that category except for Jahmyr Gibbs, who's actually a running back that transferred from Georgia Tech. He's been great, but quarterback-wise, he'll be able to get everyone the ball. He spreads it out. There's really not one big target. If say it's Milroe that plays quarterback, it's more of it's a running style. And he looked so scared in the pocket last week. Nick Saban even kind of addressed it, saying that he looked anxious back there. It made me anxious. I mean, I hit under the table a lot. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm watching and I'm going, We're going to be talking about this a lot on the post-game show. And, for Alabama fans, thankfully they won, but it was really close. And it almost felt like a loss, what happened last week. But he's the fastest guy on the team, Milroe. And if he just wouldn't have fumbled the ball twice and threw a pick, Alabama would have beaten Texas A&M handily. They're no good. But I just don't know that they can get away with that this week. But could Tennessee stop him? That's the other question. Yeah. I mean, they didn't stop Richardson of Florida. They did win, but you know what I'm saying? It's like it's just such a different defense against him if he were to play. But I don't think we'll see him.
Hey, that AT sprain. So me and Bryce Young, very different caliber of athletes here, but I had that AC sprain, dude. Put I kid you not, bubble wrap on the shoulder, tape that in there, shoulder pads on top, and you go out there and play linebacker. Now, I'm not throwing a football; it's completely different, but
right.
It hurts like an SOB. It is so painful. So I couldn't imagine trying to, because it's in his throwing shoulder, correct?
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine having that and still trying to get and throwing a football.
How long did it take you to get rid of it?
I missed a couple of days. I don't think I ever missed a game, just because, again, it's about pain tolerance, and I didn't play a position where I had to throw a football. So I didn't miss a game, missed a couple of days of practice. But, I mean, it takes a couple of weeks, man. I mean, it took about 3 weeks to a month for it to be completely healed.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you do cortisone?
No.
Well, there's the trick. No, I don't know. That's what Jay told me. I don't know.
I don't think that at Carson Newman we had the luxury of all that good stuff like you do at the SEC schools.
They didn't bust out the cortisone shots for everybody? No? Okay. All right. Well.
All right. Hey, Mick, last thing, man. We talked a lot on offense, and certainly a lot of, those receivers are settling in, but Jahmyr Gibbs is fantastic and all that. But flip it over to defense. It all starts with Will Anderson Jr., one of the best players on the planet at the college level, of course. But Henry To'oTo'o, former Vol in the middle, kind of directing traffic. Secondary, very much a work in progress, but, Kool-Aid McKinstry and, of course, Terrion Arnold kind of emerging at cornerback. What do you like about this Alabama defense? And obviously, Nick Saban's a defensive backs coach. What do you like about that unit over there?
I think it's about as good as you can get in this day and age of football, right? You got, you talked about Will Anderson Jr. I mean, I think he's the best player in college football, and you'll see. I mean, he's just so disruptive. He's in the backfield every play. You can't block him, and when there's a time in the game when you need pressure, it comes from him. But then there's another guy named Dallas Turner that's like on the other side, and those two are constantly, putting pressure on the quarterback. Now, that's going to cause Tennessee to throw the ball fast, but that's something that Hooker does anyway. So I just look for a lot of really quick passes. There's a guy named Jaheim Otis who's a big freshman, reminds me of Terrence Cody. I know I said it, but Mount Cody. He's like the big guy. Well, big guy in the middle, but you remember the Terrence Cody game. Yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so he's like a big dude in the middle, and he's like, it kind of stops the run. Alabama is pretty good with the tackling. You talked about Kool-Aid McKinstry, Terrion Arnold, those guys have been in the corner, but you still have Eli Ricks, who plays some, transferred from LSU, and is like an All-American. Kool-Aid, I'll tell you, man, special teams. Kool-Aid's starting to look like one of the all-time great or potentially great punt returners that Alabama's had, and there's been some good ones over the years. I mean, even before Nick Saban got there, you had Tyrone, who was the guy that, would catch the ball and then kind of make a move and take it to the house. And that's kind of how Kool-Aid's progressing now for the Crimson Tide. He's the guy that's going to make plays there. But the secondary has been okay, but it's just hard to D people up, anymore when you throw the ball. Alabama plays something called the cheetah package, where they bring in like all the fast guys and try to rush the quarterback. And you'll probably see a lot of that with Tennessee out on the field. But
Tennessee calls it the Rabbits package. I call it the NASCAR package. That's what we call it. But it's when you put all those Leos on the field at the same time and they just go get after it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I don't know. I think this is going to be a great game. I'm excited about being there for it. And like I said, both of my teams are playing. So I watch Tennessee every week. Tennessee is more of like, for me, it's more not work. I just watch it. I got my Tennessee buddies down here, And, and I have I bring everybody like Hendon Hooker bobblehead dolls and stuff from the Smokies, it's orange stuff, and I'm going to hang out. And then Alabama, I went to school there, and it's did my job. I've been watching, and I can't relax. I'm scared if something bad happens. It's just so it's like my two worlds collide. But I've been telling people on our side for a long time. When I was at Alabama, we never beat Tennessee. And I got to know Coach Fulmer, at the Smokies, and and I've told him this before. But a lot of what he did reminds me of what I see with Nick Saban. You're going to get beat up front. You're going to run the football. You pass it downfield. You're not going to make a lot of mistakes. And that's how you build a great program. What's great about this game is that it's highlighting two of the best quarterbacks in the country, the best conference in the country, and at a stadium that I can't ever get enough of at Neyland. So I'm super pumped for this. I just hope that it's a really good game.
Yeah. Me too, man. Me too. Because again, it's Tennessee's a good team. And I've said it too. If Tennessee ends up losing this game, you're still a good team. But don't go out there and play football. If you go out there and play football like this offense is capable of, you're not going to get blown out. It's going to be a good game. So looking forward to that. Mick, thanks so much, man. Really appreciate it. And we'll have to do this again soon, man. Always an open door invitation back on the show. Okay.
Hey, roll Tide and go Vols, right? Third Saturday finally means something again.
Awesome stuff here today. We caught up with, of course, Boogie Bentley over at Talkin Vols. If you haven't already, please go subscribe and support his show. And we also caught up with Mick Gillispie of BamaInsider to talk a little Tennessee, Alabama. And I gave you my preview, my keys to the game and what I'm watching for, especially in pregame warmups. All right, guys, take a deep breath. Whew. It's here, man. It's Friday. It is game weekend. We've been talking about it all week long. The stage is set, and I can't wait to see an awesome football game coming up tomorrow at 3:30. It's number 3 Alabama and number 6 Tennessee. 6-0, 3-0 in SEC play, 5-0, 2-0 in SEC play, and they're doing battle right here in Knoxville, Tennessee. If you're going to the game, be loud, be safe. If you're staying at home, hit me up on Twitter if you want to, @_Caner and @LockedOnVols. Can't wait to recap this game one way or the other with you guys, either Saturday nights, but most definitely Monday morning as well when we get back on our normal routine, of course. But if they win, we'll go Saturday night, late Saturday night. We'll be back here Monday morning regardless of that. So, guys, appreciate it. Have fun. Enjoy your college football weekend, and we will talk to you again sometime this weekend, everybody.